And joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. Bonner Cohen, a senior fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research. Dr. Cohen, as always, good to see you. Tell us about this report and why you say it's not true.
The UN created the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 1988. And over the last 35 years, that panel has made one prediction after the other of imminent doom for the planet, lest we change our ways, do away with fossil fuels, and replace them with, for the time being, at least, renewable energy. All of this is being done in the name of preventing the planet from heating up as a result of our use of fossil fuels. Now, the problem here is that there's absolutely no science whatsoever behind this. The UN makes its climate projections based not on climatological observations, but rather on models. You cannot model the planet. Climate models are actually nothing but guesses, and they can be influenced by the underlying assumptions and the data that are chosen to put into these things. In other words, you can rig the game, and that's exactly what has happened here. And the purpose of all of this is to scare people to death, to get governments to impose policies that will affect the cost of energy for every man, woman, and child on the face of the planet, and to favor sources of energy that are being promoted by what we can refer to as the climate industrial complex. That is composed of governments around the world, the UN, the World Economic Forum, and all of those purveyors of renewable energy, which, thanks to subsidies and mandates, are doing quite well, thank you, to the detriment of ordinary people who are seeing, as your previous segment showed, the price of energy go through the
Yeah.
roof.
Well, they are scaring people to death by saying there's the point of no return. Dr. Cohen, does that mean that climate change is not man-made, but it happens naturally?
Oh, okay. In large part, yes. The term climate change is redundant. Climates always change. Over the course of the last 2 million years, we have had no fewer than 17 ice ages, which means on 17 different occasions, the Earth cooled off so much that giant sheets of ice formed in the North Pole went, in some cases, as far south as Kentucky, and on 17 different occasions, the Earth warmed up, those ice sheets melted. In all 17 cases, the human influence on both the coming and going of the ice ages was absolutely zero, contrary to what our viewers may have heard over and over again over the past, not years, but decades. We actually are living now in a time of relative climate stability. We're living in an interglacial period, which means we're living between the last ice age and the next one. The climate change we really ought to be thinking about, looking down the road, is when the next ice age comes. When is that going to happen? We don't know. There's no way to predict that, at least with today's knowledge.
So
But
I got
the
to ask you
notion
this.
that we're facing a crisis is just nonsense.
So I got to ask you this then. Why are global elitists so invested in so-called climate policies and the green agenda?
First and foremost, they like to think well of themselves, and they are virtue signaling.
Hmm.
Many of them, however, are very heavily invested financially in the industries that stand to benefit from the forced transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And they have recognized something else. Elites like power. That's how they came elites. If you control energy, you control the people who need and use
Mm.
energy. So let's not forget what this is all about. This is about putting an enormous amount of power into the hands of actually a tiny elite. but a tiny, very well connected, very powerful elite.
Very
And this
connected.
is also an
Yeah.
elite that lives in an echo chamber. These people speak with people who see the world and stand to benefit from things that are policies that are imposed in exactly the same way. And they don't care about the rest of us.
Yeah. So the current climate structure is not catastrophic as they would like us to believe.
Oh, not at all. Now we're going to have deadly hurricanes, deadly tornadoes, things like that. But we've always had those things.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, there has been, over the course of the last several decades, absolutely no increase in the number or in the size and intensity of Atlantic hurricanes, no increase whatsoever in tornadoes. Yes, we've had droughts. Yes, we've had floods, but we've always had droughts and we've always had floods. The universe is a very chaotic place. The earth is part of the universe. The universe expands. What you see today, you will not see tomorrow. And climate is
Hmm.
itself chaotic, very difficult to predict. And it certainly is not going to be manipulated by a few resolutions passed in the UN or laws passed in the US or regulations imposed by EPA or any other agency.
Well, they'd like us to believe that they will make a difference. But Dr. Bonner Cohen, with logic and common sense, thank you so much for your insight as always. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.